Good morning. Thank you for joining us. My name is Captain Tamara Stewart with the Louisville Fire Department. I'm joined here this morning with my colleagues Colonel Kate Clemmer and Captain Della Webb. We're members of the Louisville Fire Department, and we're currently sitting in the apparatus bay of Engine 22, Truck 4, Battalion 1, located here in the west end of Louisville. Today we're going to be talking about some of the aspects of women's history on the fire department, specifically as suppression members. Suppression members we're the firefighters that go in and put out fire. Women have been involved in the Louisville Fire Department for decades, but it was only 40 years ago that women were allowed to fight fire. It's been a male-dominated job description for many, many years, and our department in 1984 saw the entry of 3 females in their first class, recruit class 158, and those 3 females were our trailblazers to pave the way for us to get to do the job that we love. We get to serve our community and give back. It's a physical job, but I would state that the 3 of us that are here today, out of the other women on our job, we love this job and really honor the privilege to be able to serve our community in the capacity that we do. I'd like to give our current Chief 2 the opportunity to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Kate Clemmer. I'm Colonel. I actually have the privilege of being the first female colonel assigned or promoted to the Louisville Fire Department. The role of the Executive Assistant Chief is one of basically picking up everything the chief can't do. A lot of things through discipline, HR, everything runs through my office. So it's been an interesting 6 months in my new role. Prior to that, I've got 22 years as of March 3rd in the fire service, and it's been a very fun, interesting, and challenging career.
And now I'd like to allow Captain Webb to introduce herself.
I'm Captain Della Webb. I've been with Louisville Fire Department for 15 years. I came here in 2009. Before that, I was on Pleasure Ridge Park Fire Department since 2002, where I was there as a sergeant. Whenever I came here, I thought that I would be coming into a department that, you know, had a lot more females, and there would be all kinds of room for advancement for females and stuff like that. And then I came here and realized that there were 9 of us out of 500. So the odds were not a lot different, but it has been a great experience the whole time I've been here. I've not been disappointed throughout my career at all with my decision to come here. It's been an amazing career and an amazing place to be.
So, Colonel, I'd like to ask you, what does being part of the Louisville Fire Department mean to you?
Oh, it's a good one, Cap. It means pride. Pride in the fact that we can serve the city of Louisville with basically everything we got. We've came in through drill school, faced with a challenge of, for me, the unknown. I had no experience in the fire service prior to trying out for the fire department. And when I started my drill school, it was at a great group of classmates who encouraged me as a female. They realized that I wasn't going to need the help that they thought that a female was going to need, that actually I lent a lot of assistance to some of my classmates, and I took a lot of assistance from some of them as well. It means overcoming challenges to be on the Louisville Fire Department. The challenges not just from the perception of what's a female doing in a fire uniform, what's a female doing on that apparatus, as well as my own challenges and my own shortcomings or doubting, can I do this job for 20 plus years? And every day I wake up, even though I've got 22 years on now and I'm one of the highest ranking females within the city, I still wonder, I wake up, can I do this job? I'm constantly trying to achieve my own benchmark, and I challenge those that want to join us to reach their own benchmarks daily or yearly. And it means pride, it means confidence, it means serving the city, and it's just been a joy to be in this career.
Well said.
So there you go.
Captain Webb, what's one of the most amazing aspects for you working for Louisville Fire Department?
One of the best parts, obviously, serving the community. You know, when you're on when you're on a call and you can tell that you specifically were meant to be there that day. There have been runs that been on throughout my career that, you know, that I was like, I specifically was supposed to be here. This would have been completely different if I weren't here. And that's a pretty amazing part of it. But on the day-to-day, just being with my crew, being with the guys, and by guys I mean all of us, you know, we are the guys, you know, we're all the guys. You know, that's not a male-female thing. It's, you know, to be one of the guys, you're just part of the crew, part of the family, and just the daily interactions of being a part of that and just having that second family. Like
It really is,
It's just, it's like coming home, you know, whenever you go to work, you know, but it doesn't really feel like you're going to work. So that's probably the best aspect of it for me on the day-to-day.
Yeah, I only had a sister growing up. And so I feel like when I go to work, I get to go to work with my 3 brothers that I never had, you know, and we laugh together and, you know, we play games or we'll play pickleball or basketball or cards, whatever it is. And it really is that family, you know, atmosphere. We're cooking together. We clean the firehouse together. We make runs together. We're shoulder to shoulder in that fire, fighting fire together. So, you know, they're truly are your brothers, our brothers and our sisters. And I know, Colonel, you were assigned, you had another female in your firehouse for a little while. I think, were you ever assigned with another female?
I have a female now as a firefighter, but yes, Colonel Clemmer
that's right,
was Captain Clemmer to me.
Yeah.
She was my captain.
With
for a
only
time frame.
14 females on our department, sometimes we're the only female in the house.
Yes.
But then every once in a while, I was assigned with a female sergeant when I was a firefighter, so every once in a while there might be a couple of us in there. But I would say it's so much fun going to work. And again, even though it's a male-dominated career field, everybody understands the job requirements physically and mentally and emotionally, and we work together. You know, we all have different assets and bring those to the table.
Absolutely.
So, you know, Cap, you mentioned sometimes it's like you've made a run and you knew you were meant to be there. I know I've personally made runs where it was a female patient that had maybe female particular problems, or the family had a religious preference that the patient be assessed by a female. And in reality, if the only people that are there that day are males, we got to do the job and assess the patient to get the medical care provided. But it's nice when a female is present so we can accommodate those religious preferences. I think, Cap, you made a run one time that it was really important having a female on that scene.
Yes, we had made a young lady who had been sexually assaulted, and it was a situation where she had some other medical conditions that, you know, her roommates were concerned that that's what was wrong with her, and they didn't realize that those weren't the issues going on. And it was also something where it wasn't an easy thing to see. It's something that we as females are kind of taught to look for, you know, triggers that we notice in like our friends, girlfriends and stuff growing up who have maybe dealt with similar situations. And that was the situation where she was very reluctant to have one of the males like just take a blood pressure, and very, very scared to have that happen. That it hit me like, oh, hold on a second. And it's like, hold on, guys, just back up for a second and let me talk to her. And, you know, and that's when we discovered that, you know, she had been sexually assaulted. And, you know, luckily we were in a situation, we have such a good relationship with EMS and the police department to where they were willing to let me stay with her, because at that point she didn't feel comfortable talking to anybody but me. You know, even though I was the sergeant on the apparatus, you know, my guys were like, hey, we'll drive, you know, we'll drive to the hospital and you can go in the ambulance with them. And, you know, so I was able to go with her all the way to the emergency room and make sure that she was comfortable there. Made sure that they brought in all female nurses, all female doctors. And before I left, you know, I made sure that she was okay with the care that she had and that she was opening up and talking to those doctors and stuff before I left. And it was just a situation where it may have gone unnoticed. You know, my guys are great, you know, and they are great EMTs and wonderful at what they do, but, you know, sometimes those things just don't stand out.
I think that's one thing that's really beneficial to having females on the department is like we can just give a different perspective. We just looked at things differently than, like, I think Chief O'Neill speaks to this often. And if we have all white men on the company, they typically are going to think the same way. Where if we have a diverse group, including females, we have different life experiences and just experiences in general that can bring a different conclusion to the incident, to bring in different ideas rather than just one type of idea or one idea from one set of experiences. And I think that's where we as women come in. We can give a little bit more insight, a little more intuition into different things. Some people laugh at that word, but I think there's something to be said about female intuition. You both, I think, have experienced that on medical runs. The intuition, because you were able to read the individual, picked up on things and had a better outcome than if not.
Well, and then even being able to teach the guys things, like, as silly as it seems, you know, after becoming a parent, you know, there are so many different things that you pick up on, you know, as a parent in general, but then like as a mom, like nursing and, you know, and all that stuff. After I'd come back from having my first child, you know, we made a run on a young lady who had just come home from the hospital from having a baby, and she was not nursing, she was bottle feeding. Well, her milk came in. Okay. She had no idea what was going on. She was 18 years old. No clue what was going on. All she knew was she was in intense pain, you know, didn't know what to do. And, you know, my sergeant was like, take her to the hospital. I don't know what's going on. I can't fix that. You know, because it was like, you know, a situation that they're not aware of or how to deal with.
It's not their lived experience.
Yes, and so, you know, I explained to her what was going on, and, you know, was like, I can show you how to, like, you know, make the pain go away and stuff so you don't have to go to the hospital, because she was concerned about going to the hospital and not being able to take the baby with her, and, you know, and so she ended up not going to the hospital, and I was able to help her do that. And we got back to the firehouse, and, you know, everybody's just kind of quiet, and my sergeant's super loud guy, Wilkins. He's like, all right, nobody else is gonna ask, I'm gonna ask. He's like, what'd you tell her? And he's like, I don't know. He said, I don't know, and I need to know. He said, so even though it's about girl things, I wanna know. Like,
yeah.
You
and
know.
that's the thing, like, part of our job, you know, I don't know, when I was a kid, you think firefighters put out fires. Our job is so much more than that. We make medical calls, we make, you know, a dumpster on fire, a patch of grass is on fire, high angle rescues, confined space. We make all of these different types of, we call them runs, but really what it is that we do is solve problems. And that's a perfect example of how having that lived experience as a female brings something to help that person, that patient, that, you know, where's the catch-all for that? If people don't know, they don't know what they don't know. And so having professionals show up and being kind and compassionate in that moment, you know, it's solving a problem. So you know there was no fire, but you solved a problem that day.
Yeah, yeah, so, we are problem solvers. Yeah. That's very true, Cap.
Yeah. So this is going to kind of lead into what brought you to the Louisville Fire Department. Why did you seek a career in firefighting?
Oh, okay. Well, it wasn't to help the community at first. That was what I learned I could do. I sought out a career that I could make a good living at, have good health insurance, and save for retirement. Mm-hmm. I realized at the age of 30 that as a independent businesswoman, I wasn't able to save like I needed to secure my future basically as retirement, or to be able to buy a house with what I was doing as a massage therapist. I just couldn't do it. And played rugby with Katherine Clemmer, retired captain, and she is like, dude, you need to try out. And so I applied. I took at that time a paper application and applied, was blessed with making it the first time, and here I am 22 years later. absolutely love it, and I have learned how I can benefit the city of Louisville and how this career has benefited me in more ways than I ever thought.
Cap, what about you? How'd you end up here?
A lot like she said, it wasn't world peace. It was honestly for me, I was 18. I had moved to Louisville from the country. Unlike you, I grew up with 4 older brothers, 3 older sisters, grew up, country. And I was looking for something physical to do. And I was in college, I was going pre-med, was not content and looking like I needed a physical outlet that I wasn't able to receive here in Louisville at the time, me being new here and young. And I drove by a firehouse one day and it said, become a volunteer. I was like, well, why the heck not? We should do this, that could be like basic training or something, that'll give me something physical to do. And it was interesting because, my house had burnt whenever I was little, whenever I was 4, and my sister and I almost died in it. And so I was scared of fire, like my childhood, like all the way up through my childhood. So I was like, well, that's going to be an interesting concept of, getting through that. And it's like, well, I'll just do the physical part. And then when we get to the fire part, I'll just quit, and keep on doing what I'm doing, like I just wanted the physical thing to do. Well, within just weeks of being in it, like I was like stuck, like I loved it. Like it was amazing, like stuff that, we never thought we'd use when we were in high school, all the physics, the science, the math that you're like, I'm never going to use this.
Right.
Here I was, and I was seeing like where I would actually be using it, the hazmat stuff, and all those classes I had taken to prep for pre-med. Here I was able to utilize that in the fire department, and I loved it. And then we got to the phase where the fire part came in, and my guys were like, you're sticking it out, you're going to do it. And the night that we had our first live burn, of course, it started storming. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And there's this big old guy behind me on the line, and he's like, you're doing this? I was like, I don't think I can do it, dude. And he's like, you're going to do it. And next thing I know, he picked me up and threw me down the hall. And I was like, well, I guess we're doing this. So almost 22 years later, here I sit, and I love it. Like I realized that like all the training that we get prepared me for that moment. Like, that moment you didn't have time to be scared.
Yeah.
It was just, you react and you do, the training kicks in, and it was an awesome feeling after that. It was like there's no going back.
It is when you can actually experience something to where it just is automatic. I experienced that with basketball. It's like we train so hard on different aspects of the game, and then you just go play. You do it. You allow your body to do it. And the same things in the fire service. We train so hard on how to pull the hose, how to move with the hose, and what to look for and what to listen for. And when you actually are in that environment like you described, it all comes together and you just work automatically, and it's awesome.
I was a school teacher before I got on the fire department, and I loved teaching. But I wanted something physical. So I was 36 when I changed careers. So I was already a little bit older, but I thought to myself, I know it's a physical job, but like you said, you mentioned Katherine Clemmer, so she retired captain, and I met her through sports also.
Yes.
So she was somebody that really, if she hadn't talked to me, I never would have even thought that this job was for me, because I don't grow up seeing female firefighters. And that kind of leads me into, kind of why we're here today and talking about the importance of women in suppression and how significant, I can't speak for you guys, you ladies, or the other ladies on our department. Sometimes I don't like it to be made a big deal that we are female firefighters.
Not at all.
I just want to be known as a firefighter. However, I do take pride in being a female firefighter, particularly on Louisville Fire Department, because we have a really tough physical agility test and a really tough drill school, fire academy. So I know how much pride I feel being one of only 28 women that have ever even made it through our academy, even made it through. So how do you feel about that? Is that, does something that resonate with you ladies?
Absolutely. It's humbling, actually. For those that came before us, with no disrespect to them, but they went through very, very difficult times in adjusting to having females in the fire service. It was not an easy transition, but these women, they they were faced with a lot of challenges, and they blazed the trail for us, as you spoke to earlier. And I just hope that we can continue to honor what they have done by increasing our numbers, by continuing to be as professional as we are, and just forging forward still.
What about you, Cap? The whole female aspect, like, why is it important to you that we have women on the fire department?
Well, I mean, it's more important to me that we have the diverse mindsets than it is, you know, about any type of, like, you know, race, sex, anything like that. Like, it is so important that you have just different abilities, you know, and whether we like it or not, men or women are made different. It is what it is, you know, and you need both. You know, you need small people, you need big people, you need, you know, people who are more like empathetic. You need people who are not so empathetic, you know. I mean, and that's what I love about, like, our crew dynamics are that, you know, we've got 4 people on a fire truck, you know, and so you show up and we've got 4 different minds,
Right.
you know, and it's awesome because something that, like, I always tell my guys, it's like, if you see something, I might not see it, you know, don't assume that I see it. You know, if you see something, tell me, you know, absolutely tell me. And, you know, we have that dynamic with each other, but with females, you know, I feel like so many of them that try to get on the job or even think about it and then decide not to, you know, just feel like there's not a place here for them, or that it's not a place where they can have a family, or it's not a place where they can go on with, like, the thoughts that they always had as a female. You know, like, we've got a couple young ladies off right now, you know, that are going to become moms, and one of them actually texted me yesterday, and she was like, I've heard that a lot of people are concerned that I'm not going to come back after my pregnancy, but I am. And she's like, I have no intention of leaving the fire department. And I was like, well, of course you're not. It's like, that would be silly. It's like, pretty soon you're going to be loving that every 3rd day,
Yes.
you know, that break. You know, so the importance of females on the job is just the mindset, having that different mindset, but then also that brings a different mindset to the men on the job. It shows them a different world. I happen to be married to a fireman. He's been a captain here for well, he's not been a captain for 25 years, but he's been on the department for 25 years. Gruff and rough. Yes, my husband is one of the old school guys, and whenever we started dating, he was like, I'm gonna pay for every single comment I've ever made, you know, bad about anybody. And he had even told me, like, he had given you a rough time.
Yeah.
And he's like, I bet she hates me. He said, I wasn't doing it to be mean. He's like, but, you know, I bet she hates me. It's like, well, everybody I've talked to hates you. You know? It's like, everybody asks me why I married you. You know? And it's funny because he's very well liked and very, very respected. Very great guy. Great dad, you know. But it's so funny to see the different dynamic of his career versus my career, how much of it is actually so much the same, like how, you know, our paths and stuff have been very, very similar. To see how he deals with certain situations and how I would deal with the same situation, and us have those conversations, and he'd be like, yeah, I didn't really think of that. You know, and then me in the same way, you know, was like, yeah, I didn't really think about that either.
It probably makes you each better at your both job because you do have that insight that you can talk with each other.
Yeah. I mean, we hope so. I mean, that's one of the advantages. I mean, we don't talk a lot of shop, you know, when we go home. Obviously, we've got 5 kids and, you know, and all that stuff. But it does naturally. I mean, it's our life. I mean, we'll probably never retire. I mean, y'all will be packing us out of here on a fire truck one day. But because we've both done it since we were kids, you know, it's what we know. It's our family. And it's our family's family. You know, our kids are like, "Ooh, we're going to the firehouse." You know, what guys are working today? Who can I chase? And who's gonna
play with me at the firehouse?
Yeah, who's gonna play ping pong with me? Yeah. You know, and just having different personalities and different dynamics, and being able to teach everybody is probably the most important part of like females existing within the department. It's just a very necessary role.
Yeah. You know, that kind of, you talked about, like, so we've got old school people, you know, we hear people say old school. And, you know, again, we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of women in suppression. You mentioned, like, those first ladies. I've spoken with a couple of them, and they had it rough in a sense
Yes.
that, like, there were a lot of gentlemen on the department that told them flat out, you shouldn't be here. You don't deserve to be here.
Right.
And I still feel like, and this is just, again, my personal opinion, society still kind of adheres to those gender roles where firefighting is a man's job. But here it is, 40 years later, we're proving that women can do this job. But I'm not gonna, at least I would never lie and say it's easy. It is certainly not. It's the
No, it
most
is not
difficult
easy.
physical work I've ever done. But women can do this job.
Absolutely.
And so, Colonel, if you wouldn't mind, speak a little bit about, you know, the requirements of everybody. There's no gender, you know, the women do this and men do this and the men do more than the women. Speak a little bit about what's our expectations as firefighters.
The expectation of the Louisville Fire Department for its members is to work hard and try your hardest every day. Is like to enter the doors of the Louisville Fire Training Academy, you've got to be able to pass our physical agility test, our civil service exam, and they're equal. We don't have a white box per se for the females. Everybody's got to run the course under 11 minutes. Everybody has to lift the same ladder. Whether that ladder has changed over the years just because they break and we can't find replacements, but it is the exact same ladder that the men use as the women use in all of our evolutions. There is not a difference. You don't get a plus 2 minutes because you're a female. We are all treated equally. We try not to identify who's a male and who's a female until we get later into the interview process. We just want to have the best people that we can absolutely find to be available to try out and for us to pick when it comes down to the list. So everybody runs the race, everybody takes the exam, we interview, and based on all those numbers, then we make a list. Civil service establishes the list, and it's not that we want to choose individuals, certain individuals over others. It's all comes through the candidates' efforts and where they place on the civil service eligibility list. And from there, we learn about the person, and we can have a conversation during the interviews. And then it comes down to everything from what you've done in your past to allows you to move forward and how invested you are into the community. We want people to be willing to stay within the community and work to make the community the best that it can be. But we don't have the white box. We don't try and discriminate between men and women. We just want people that are hardworking and want to improve the city and the fire department to join our ranks.
Yeah, we have to meet these expectations, and you know, all of our ranks every year have to do minimum standards, but that's just it. That's the minimum.
Right.
You have to be able to do that. What we want as a department is to be able to exceed the minimum standards. But I feel like sometimes I did an interview a number of months ago, and it was on the news, the local news, and I said, we'd like more females to apply. And they always say, never read the comments. I read the comments, and there were people saying, we're just lowering the standards to allow more women.
No.
We would like to see more women apply. This job is for women just as much for men. Everybody, regardless of you're male or female, has to meet the standards. So, Captain Webb, tell us a little bit about drill school and your experience in drill school, and you know, kind of just like Colonel was talking about, nothing is, you know, women don't do this and the men do that. Tell us a little bit about drill school.
Well, I mean, getting hired even to get to drill school, like I'm one of those people that I actually applied for Louisville twice. My first time trying out, like I had my run, like I was focused on running the course and, you know, and all that stuff. And I had my run down like great and fast because everybody told me you've got to be under 8 minutes or you will never even be considered. And so I had my run down great. Well, I didn't focus on my upper body. So I went from like weighing 140 pounds to weighing 125 pounds because I had been running so much. And I literally did not have the body behind me. I did not have the weight behind me to push the ladder up on the wall. I missed it by 7/10 of a second.
Yeah.
Not a second, 7/10 of a second. And all the guys trying out there with me were like, that's BS, you know, she had it, you
And
know.
once you miss it, like that's the thing with our test, if you don't get it, that ladder up within the certain number of seconds, you're disqualified. Yeah, you're out.
That was it. So all that running I had done, all the training and all that stuff. So I had a career already. So I didn't really have that like going against me as far as like, oh, well now you're set back a couple of years in your retirement and stuff. But it was very shameful in the moment. Like it's like I did all this work and I've got to go back and say I didn't pass.
But you didn't give up.
And so I was like, I can either get mad and try out again next time and, you know, lift weights and stuff and pass it, or I can stay where I am. And I was like, nope, you know, and even though I loved PRP, it's like, no, I'm going to pass that test. And I went back next time, weighed 145 pounds because I had been doing upper body work. And it was really, really important for me to have that experience with Louisville, because Louisville, the city of Louisville, has such different types of structures than we had in Pleasure Ridge Park. You know, typically it's residential, it's low rise. I mean, the biggest building out there at that point in time was like a 3-story building other than our fire academy. So ladders and stuff weren't as big of an obstacle there. So even though we had ladder drills and I could do all those and was able to raise the extension ladder, you know, the walking it up by yourself and all that stuff, the ladders that we used were different, they weren't as big. And so I was able to perform perfectly fine there. But for Louisville, I had to have more upper body strength to be able to perform like downtown and in, you know, old Louisville, these big houses and stuff. And one of the things that I noticed in drill school, you were asking me about drill school, like, so whenever I got on the department, I was already an EMT, I was already national firefighter, like I had all the certifications that I needed for the job. All the women had told me, you just got to pass that ladder, you know, the 50-foot ladder. And it's like, oh geez, you know, because once you fell something once, you know, it's always in the back of your head, like, oh, you know. So even to this day, like I still, like I make sure that I stay strong enough to where I'm never going to fail that again.
The first time I tried out, I struggled with that upper body strength. And I played sports. Like I was, people would say I was physically fit, but I wasn't doing the strength-based training that I really needed to do. And I remember when I failed my test the first time, I was so mad at myself, but it made me hungry. And I trained for the next 2.5 years, and I never had trouble with that ladder again, because I found someone that had just gone through the academy, was able to train me in what I needed to do. I have to train with heavy weights to make sure I am able to meet and exceed the minimum standards. So, you know, when I have female friends that are considering, or anybody for that matter, considering trying out for the fire department, don't shy away from lifting heavy. We need it in this job, because, you know, we're it. When that fire comes in and we're in there and you're exhausted and you're tired and you're hot and you think, I can't move my foot again. You can't quit. There is no quit. There's no one else coming. So having that, and what we go through in drill school, you know, in my class we had 3 females. How many did you have in yours?
2.
2? Colonel, what about you?
Just me.
You were it?
That was just me.
So, you know, we have, at least with my sisters that I came through with, you know, we could kind of sound off on each other, because, you know, I weigh 150 pounds. That fan on that truck over there weighs 50 pounds. That's 1/3 my body weight. But my male colleague that weighs 250 pounds, solid muscle, that's only 1/5 of his body weight. So it's maybe easier for him to do the same task, but I've got to be able to do the task. I'm sure you feel the same way. So that experience in drill school, you know, we have to do the same thing the men do. They don't take it easy on us because we're women. In fact, for me, I wanted to come in, if the guys had to do 50 push-ups, I had to do 50 push-ups. If they do 10 pull-ups, I better be able to do 10 pull-ups. So, and because I want them to know, I got to prove to my colleagues, you can count on me. And how many times do you get asked, if I go down in a fire, can you pull me out?
Oh, a lot. And my response to them is actually, I won't, but the rest of my company will.
We never do
Because
anything alone.
We never do anything alone. We are always working as a team. Either it's a team of 2, a team of 4, a team of 6. We're always working as a team. So for when people's like, can you pull me out of the fire if I go down? It's like, no. But the 4 people that are outside ready to initiate a mayday absolutely can. All of us together will get the job done, whether it's one of our own going down or going in to rescue the civilians that are in the structure. We never do it alone, like you said, and we get it done.
Yeah.
It may not be the prettiest, but it gets done.
It might look a little bit different than one of our male counterparts.
Right.
Right? But we achieve the same objective.
Yes.
I personally carry 25 feet of webbing in my pocket, and if I'm in there with my firefighter and he goes down, I thought, I'm gonna use that webbing. I'm going to do everything I can to get him out. We're going to have the mayday.
Yep.
So I know we got 4 people coming in, but I might not be able to pick him up and throw him on my shoulder, but I got that webbing. I'm going to hook on him, I'm going to hook on me, and I'm going to bear crawl him out if I have
Absolutely.
to. But there's no quit.
No.
There's no, well, I guess I'll wait for someone else to come do it, because we know our brothers and sisters are depending on us the same way anybody would expect from one of our male counterparts.
Right, and I think the team atmosphere and the family that we've been discussing is also the team atmosphere of the fire department, which is another driving thing that inspired me to be part of the Louisville Fire, is the fact that it is a team sport, basically. We are tactical athletes, and so we work in a team environment. We have a team on each apparatus. We have a team in each house. We have a team with the fire division. The whole department works as a team to get certain tasks done, whether it's the structure fire, the technical rescue, the trench rescue, but we all, or a dive, everybody has to know their role and everybody has to be proficient and get the job done as a team. We don't have just one firefighter A going out to do the run. It's the whole apparatus, the whole box alarm, whatever it takes. But it's the team environment that is really what I think brings a lot of people to this career. And for those women who feel that they can't be a part of this team, absolutely you can. We've spoken about maintaining or learning how to develop upper body strength. We have our strength from our hips down. The men have it from their hips up. And so you guys got to learn where your weaknesses are, just like you do within the fire service. You find out where you're weak and you work on that. And with yourself, you work on where you're weak and you learn how to lift heavy, how to be conditioned to hit that time, and we learn our weaknesses and we build on those, and everybody gets better.
Yeah. You know, you brought up different sizes, different shapes, different, ethnicities, different life experiences, different genders. I know we all have, between us, we've got a bunch of different technical certifications, and I'm a confined space tech, and if there's a hole this big, all right, and I'm scrawny, I'll own it, right? But I'm little. And then my counterpart, that's 230, is he going in that hole? What's going to be, I'm not saying he can't. It's not what I'm trying to say. But that's what we all have our different assets. So yes, there is a place for strength and speed. And me personally, I know I'll never be the biggest, strongest on the fire department. I'm okay with that because I know I have other things to bring to the table. And we each have our different areas that we shine, and then so do our firefighters, and so do our sergeants, and we work together to solve those problems. Just like you said, we all have a different approach. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And I might try my way and it's not working, and you say, well, let's try this. And if that doesn't work, you say, let's try this. So, and that has no gender or ethnicity or that's just people. That's just
Teamwork.
Being different people and that kind of thing. So that's one of my favorite things about this job. You guys have already mentioned it. It's the teamwork and the diversity that's what makes us great. That is what makes us able to serve our community to the best capacity, because we want to look like our community. Now, the reality on the fire department, our population is roughly 50% female. I personally don't know if we're ever going to get to the point where our fire department is 50% female. We would love it, and here's what I think. When I was a kid, I don't remember sitting at the dinner table and anybody saying, you could be a firefighter when you grow up. They said it to my cousin, who was a boy.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to see in my lifetime is this changing narrative, that at a dinner table, someone looks at their daughter or their niece and says, you could be a firefighter. and she knows that she can. And so one of the things that I love, one of our fire prevention officers, Sergeant Ashby Green, a couple years ago started the Leslie Prather Empowerment Camp for middle school aged girls. And it's kind of a day camp, right? With, it's 4-day long day camp, and they get to come and pull some hose and do some different agility stations, and it's age appropriate for them, but they also get to see other aspects of the fire service, like the thermal imaging cameras that we use when we're searching in a smoke-filled environment to find patients that we can't see with our eyes. So they're learning about science and technology, and they get their CPR certification. So it's like they can walk away knowing how to save a life at 12 years old. Even in my lifetime, and all of our lifetime as we're sitting here, I think of 40 years ago, women weren't fighting fire yet, and that's bonkers to me. So this girls' camp, we've all been involved with the girls' camp. Captain Webb, what was your experience in working with those girls, trying to get the narrative out that this job is just as much for women as it is for men?
During the camp, it's great. You're in the camp and you're talking to these girls and you're learning about them and, some of the struggles that they've dealt with in their lives and all that. The coolest part for me and the part that really resonates with the girls are seeing them after camp, seeing them at a football game.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, hey, Captain Webb. And it's like, hey, how are you doing? And, they come up to me and like, I'm there at my son's football game and they give me a hug and they see me, as a mom, as a normal human, as a normal, just exister in the world. But then they've also seen me climb on that fire truck. One of them told me, I can't wait to get to drive fire trucks.
Oh.
Because this last year, we took them driving, letting them ride on the fire trucks, and my apparatus was down there that I became a sergeant on, and so I knew exactly what it could do, and so I was driving it around, showing them, how you can drive them and, how fast they go and, all that stuff. And the girls were excited to see that, the lack of, limitations for them, I guess.
Yeah.
I was excited that she was excited that she wanted to drive a fire truck one day.
That's cool.
In the moment and stuff, teaching them CPR. I forget how many girls we had this last year. It was a lot compared to the first year.
It was 28 or something, 26
Yeah.
or 28.
So to be able to teach that many girls to do CPR, even if half of them walk away remembering everything, and if one of them, uses that, it was worth the entire thing.
Absolutely.
If it helps any of them. And when they're there, they come in and they're shy and, they're real quiet. And then by the end of the week, it's like, y'all need to be quiet.
Yeah, they're often doing team building exercises and getting to run and just, I can understand too from a point of view, it seems a whole lot like when we say we're trying to recruit a diverse workforce, that we're not talking to white men. That's not the case at all. We want the best candidates. We want everyone to know that they are welcome, that they have a place, and that includes people of color, people of different sexual orientations, different, men, women. Just there's a place for you in this job, and the girls' camp gives us an opportunity to let these middle school age girls come out of their shell in an environment where they're not worried about boys,
yes,
maybe teasing them if they do something silly looking or if they trip and fall. We dust off our knees and we keep running and so the girls' camp, the Leslie Prather Empowerment Camp, it was kind of created because we had a female on our fire department, Leslie Prather, and she was class 184, outstanding firefighter, and tragically she and her daughter and another woman and her daughter that was actually related to a retired major were tragically killed in a car accident February 14 of 2020. I know it shook our fire department.
Yes.
And so this was our way and Sergeant Green's brainchild of let's create something out of tragedy. And maybe this is the next, in 40 years, it's going to be these women, those girls at that camp sitting in these chairs,
right,
talking about how firefighting, Louisville Fire, women in the fire service from 80 years. Planting that seed and seeing the garden grow, that's what I love about that camp. And it wasn't until I started talking to other female firefighters and thought, I could do this job too. And it was very physically demanding to go through the process and to be hired. So here's a question for you. And I don't, honestly, growing up, I was a tomboy. I've always been a tomboy. I always had short hair. I'm not worried about skinning my knee or having dirt on my face. But if I'm gonna go sing in the church choir, I put on my dress and I put on my makeup. You can absolutely be feminine and be a firefighter. I'll be honest, when it's time to go fight fire, you can't worry about that.
No.
I'm not worried about my makeup. I'm not worried about breaking a nail. I'm not worried about stinky or sweaty. You got to go do the job. So, and with you both being mothers, you know, that balance between your identity as a female, as a mother, as a woman, and balancing that with your identity as a firefighter, or does it not even matter?
To me, it doesn't matter. It's where my life path has led me, and I have fully embraced motherhood as a firefighter and as a wife. It's just part of who I have become, and I've been lucky enough to become who I am through the fire department and on this journey, and having the legacy that we have. And hopefully, like you just spoke to, is that in 40 years we got other women who have similar legacies that they're sitting here and discussing how it was.
What about you?
For me, I mean, God's plan for me was clearly much larger than my plan could have ever worked out. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's my whole career and life. I mean, I never even planned to have a family. You know, so my whole life has been definitely planned by God. And I'm thankful for it. And it doesn't change anything for me. Like she said, that's our life. You know, this is how it is. My mom passed away when I was 12, so my dad was left raising me for that last little bit, and of course with siblings and all that stuff. And he told me he never wanted me to have to need a man to do anything for me, you know, but he wanted me to always be able to be a lady. You know, so he would make sure that, like, I wore heels to church, and that I wore my dress, and, you know, that, you know, I had makeup if I needed it. And then he would also make me go out and change the tire on the car, you know, when I flattened it on a bush hog, you know, in the rain, you know, like, and he would make me figure it out the hard way. As I'd mentioned, like, I had planned to do pre-med my whole life, you know, so when I joined the fire department and quit college, my dad was not happy. Like, he thought, you know, I was his kid that was going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
You know, and so he was not happy. And then whenever I graduated drill school, he came to the firehouse one day, and he saw us, like, you know, we were prepping dinner and all that stuff, and saw the guys, like, you know, interacting with me. And just whenever I went home, he was like, this is where you were meant to be. Aww. He said, it's like you have just a bunch, like your big brothers right here. And he's like, this is where you were meant to be. And I was like, that's awesome, you know, and that's been over 20 years ago, and he still feels the same way. I just think it's a natural thing. Once you're here, it's just your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't change the fact that you're a woman, you know, obviously, you know, but, and for all those things we discussed earlier, we bring something different to each of these problems that we arrive to solve. So we're going to wrap up a little bit, but just I'm just going to bring up the elephant in the room a little bit, you know. How many years you got on Cap?
On Louisville, 15. Altogether, about 22.
Okay, so 22 in the fire service, 15 on Louisville. Mm-hmm. I've got 10 years on Louisville, and you've got
22.
22, okay. My lived experience on Louisville Fire Department, I have never experienced anybody, at least say anything to my face, from my colleagues that said, you don't deserve to be here, right? I would like to believe that my work performance stands for itself.
Yes.
You know, I make sure that I'm fit for duty. I make sure that I work hard every day. I train every day. I do something every day to make myself better. I know all of you do also. So I personally don't have any experiences where I feel like I'm not welcome here. I don't know, and I hope that's the case for all of us, but we've talked, you know, you've been on 22 years. I don't know what your lived experience, if you saw anything. You know, was it how hard was it for you? Were you getting anything as compared to some of our women that started 40 years ago? when people were openly telling them, you don't deserve to be here?
Yeah, no, I've never experienced what those first women have experienced, anything close to that. The closest I could say is once I became a battalion chief or a major, there were some retirees who wouldn't look me in the eye. So I don't know if that's them being uncomfortable or the fact that that's their unspoken way of saying you don't deserve what you've earned. But I have never experienced anything, like you said, to my face that I have personally experienced. They may talk behind closed doors or while I'm not in the room, but I've never experienced anything. My biggest thing is my own doubts, my own insecurities about a female in the fire service. And like I spoke to earlier, it's like I feel like I prove myself every day. Every day I show up, I have to prove myself. I don't know if I need to prove it to the members, or if it's just more of proving it to me that I do deserve to be here, because all women deserve to be here. It's just we got to work to get more of us in the ranks.
Yeah.
I dealt with it whenever I was young. I was still in the county then, and there was a man that got hired the same time I did, and he was a retired Army Ranger. He was not fond of females in, the fire service. And I heard him talking one day, didn't say it to my face, I heard him talking. He was like, people like Della should never be hired. And I was like, really? It's like, well, what's that supposed to mean? He's like, oh, you know what I mean. So after that, I wouldn't even speak to this guy. He was on another shift. And then one day he was getting off work. I was coming into work and putting my gear on track, and a fire came in. Well, he's taking his gear off and stuff. I was like, where are you going, buddy? It's like, there's a fire coming in, hop on. It's like 5 people is better than 4. He's like, oh, okay. So we get there. Well, I was on the line, the hose and stuff. So we were going in, and he stayed with me the whole time. But, the whole back of this house is on fire. We made entry, put it out, did everything we were supposed to do, come out, and we were whipped. We were walking over and took my pack off to change out the bottle, and he slapped me on the back. He said, I'll go in any fire with you. And that was probably one of the biggest compliments of my entire career, that more than any rank could ever give me. That was probably the hugest compliment I could have ever gotten.
Sure, it's nice to get the validation from our peers that we're doing a good job.
Yes, I would say to any female coming on in the future, for anybody to get on the job and think that they're just going to skate through and not have some sort of resistance, that's a really unrealistic outlook on life in general.
Right.
You're not going to learn. If you have nothing to learn and nothing to grow through, then you're going to have a really boring life. But I think that it's those trials and those struggles that make us better. I know that I've definitely grown from the struggles that I've had on the job, rather than letting them define me.
They make you better.
Absolutely.
Nice.
So in wrapping it all up, why do you think it's important that young women accept the challenge to become Louisville firefighters and help write the next 40 years of history? I'm gonna go, Cap.
Why should they accept the challenge? Because it is fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's fun, and it is a career that you will never feel like you're coming to work. You come in and, even on the simplest of medical runs, somebody's having difficulty breathing, just helping them is such a rewarding thing. Even when you're worn out, even when you haven't been sleeping all night because you've been making alarms and stuff like that, that you'll make that run where the people are truly grateful for you, and it just makes it all worthwhile. They will love their life, their career. They will never regret the career choice that they made if they choose to come here.
Yeah. It's that mentality of send me. If somebody's got to go help these people, I can do it, So I think that's important. Colonel, what do you think about our?
I think pretty much what Della just said is just, it's one of the careers where everything melds in together. You have the challenges, physically, mentally, spiritually at times. You have something new every day. If you are a firefighter and you feel like you've gotten to where I know everything, no, you sure don't. because there's so many things at the firefighter level that you can learn, and then you can challenge yourself and you can move up into the ranks. You can learn all kinds of different disciplines. You can challenge yourself to move up in ranks. You can challenge yourself to go out into the country to be a peer assessor, to learn how other departments do things and bring that back to us to help us improve. It's the challenge of breaking those social norms and the social barriers of role definition. That could be a whole nother segment of a conversation as to the social norms, as to why we define gender roles as to careers. Being part of that movement, of being part of a movement to bring more diversity within the department, not just with gender, but with race and religions and everything. It's just, if you have a desire to make some changes, the fire department is the place to be. Come be part of Louisville Fire Department. Come meet these challenges that the city says that we have. Well, let's start here. Let's make the fire department our ambassadors to change. We are in every aspect of the community, more so than we want to sometimes, but we are it. We are the problem solvers, like we've been talking. And this is where we can really make some change champions and move forward.
And I think too, our fire department provides, we touched on it a little bit, an opportunity, to have a career. First of all, we pay pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need a college degree. So if you have one, great, but if you don't, that's okay. 18 years of age, high school diploma or GED, and a driver's license, and we teach you the rest. You've got to come with a good attitude and a solid work ethic and be prepared for challenges. And the word I quit or I can't better not be in your vocabulary.
Correct.
But if you're ready to meet those challenges head on, you start our fire academy making your salary on day one, you get your benefits on day one, you have the opportunity to move through the ranks, you get raises. And when I was a teacher, I had so many wonderful students that said, I don't have good grades. My family doesn't have money for college. What am I going to do? I got a job for you. Right. You got to be able to meet the requirements, have a great attitude, and like you said, accept those challenges and be that change and come in every day. I get to go to work every day, not I have to go to work. But I've never met a firefighter that says, I hate my job. In fact, it was the opposite. Every firefighter I talked to said, I love my job. And I want, just as much as we tell our young men, this job is for you, I want our young women to know this job is for them too. This job is for anybody that's willing to come in these doors and work hard and give back, challenge themselves to be the positive change. And, in our captain's classes and leadership classes, we talk about circle of influence. And so a lot of people, they really only affect maybe their family or their block or their work family. And I feel like with our job, we have our circle of influence, but when we go on these different medical runs, fire runs, car accidents, our circle of influence can be bigger and bigger to affect more change and help complete strangers. And that brings you the satisfaction. I don't ever worry about going to bed at night wondering if I made a difference.
Right.
And that satisfaction, when I look back, hopefully one day I'm going to be an old crone laying in my bed, and I can look back on my life and say, I'm glad I did, not I wish I had. Right. So, ladies, thank you so much for being here and talking with, just having a chat about what, the past 40 years, what it means to us to have women on the fire department, understanding those first three women, Vicki Bell, Deidre Berry, and Cynthia Lewis, that it was not probably easy for them. I can't speak for them, but they met those challenges head on. And at least 30 years from their entry date, from my entry date, we've evolved. Our fire department has evolved. There's still perhaps people in the world that think that women aren't tough enough. I'd say to them, come down and try out.
Right.
Come take our test, come through our academy, and you'll see it's no joke. Colonel, thank you for being here this morning.
My pleasure.
It's always wonderful talking with you. Captain Webb, thanks again.
You're welcome.
It's always a pleasure to get to see you guys. We don't always see each other on the street, but nice to see your faces and talk with you again.
Me too.
Thank you everybody for joining us today. If you are interested in learning more about the history of the Louisville Fire Department in any aspect, please feel free to make an appointment to visit our History Museum located at 3228 River Park Drive. And if you're interested in applying for the fire department, which I hope you will, search jobs at louisvilleky.gov. We will be open for applications sometime this spring in 2024. We'd love to have everybody come out, give us a shot. The fire department changed all of our lives. We'd like it to change yours. Please come join us.